Hi, Linda. Hi, Rita.
There. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, everyone who's here so far.
Hi, Becky. Sorry, I was muted.
Rita, I can't hear you.
You can?
I can.
Can you hear me now? No? You can hear me. Michael,
I
can
hear
you?
you. Hi, Michael.
I
Hi,
can.
Becky, I can
Michael,
hear you.
I can't hear you either.
I think it's you.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Gotta be me.
Michael and Linda can hear me.
How about now?
Now, can you hear me?
I forgot. I turned my volume all the way down. Well,
Okay.
you're on the phone and you're listening to a workshop and it's, yeah. Anyway. Thank
It's
you.
always the easy fix.
Yeah, I love that. Life goes on. Okay. All right, so. Rita, I did just send out an email that has a couple things
It
at
has
about
what?
5 o'clock. It has the announcement for the police the police study group.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Other and the MOA for Dan to work
Okay.
independently. I mean, not independently, to work as the OIC post retirement.
Okay. So did you post this thing about the police study group on the town website or town announce or?
No, I was going to do that right after you guys looked at it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just want to
So
be
we'll read
sure
it.
if you wanted changes or.
Okay.
Hi, Linda. April's here. Hi, Kate.
No, it's fun.
It says,
So at 6:30, Michael and Linda and I are going to go to the CPC meeting.
right, I'm just realizing meeting host, I think that might mean, is that Melissa? Linda, you're not labeled as meeting host, you're admin secretary.
Yeah, I changed it. Sometimes people come up as meeting host without, so Rita, you'll need to fix your name, rename. yourself.
Oh, you know why? Oh, that's weird. Why did I come up as meeting host?
I don't know.
It just sometimes randomly does that to people.
So I go to participants and
Just
then,
go under, just hover at the top 3 little dots in the right top corner of your
yeah, well, I'm over here. This is weird.
and if you
I'm going to just rename myself.
yeah.
Oh, and Elaine's here too. So I guess there are 4 of us will be.
Exodus.
Yeah.
It helps if I unmute myself.
Oh, that would be great.
I was talking and no one answered. I said, I thought I answered us the question. It's been that kind of day. Shall we call ourselves to order?
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to bring up the agenda Becky just sent to us. 1 second. I did not have that ready. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any additions? Becky, I know we've adjusted the agenda to help with the CPC hearing and those who might want to attend. So was there any other changes since you sent this to us?
No.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's open it up to open public comment then. Does anybody have public comment? Oh, please put your hand up in the screen so I can see you. Michael, go ahead. Are you unmuted?
I'm unmuted. So
Okay.
this is a non-controversial, just heads up to you guys as a change. Thought I'd give you a
Oh.
break.
Too bad.
Disclaimer.
So I think somewhere in the last year and a half, we got a municipal vulnerability preparedness grant that Becky and I worked on. And so that was the planning grant. And the next stage, once you're approved, just to get action grants. And so Nathan Murphy and I are likely going to attend an online training next week. The new action grant round is opening up. I'm sort of skeptical that we can get our act together to apply, but we're gonna check it out. And I'm just giving you a heads up because last year's round opened up in April and it was open for 6 weeks. So that's why I don't think we can sort of like figure out what we're doing, check in with the planning board, check in with you guys and actually write something. But I just wanted to forewarn you that if we actually got very motivated, we might come to you with an application. The only thing that Nathan and I have talked about was trying to integrate the recommendations of the consultant into the master plan, which we couldn't do by ourselves. So we'd have to hire some consultant to do it. And I'm actually not sure if that's an eligible activity, but that's just my update. So it may come to nothing, but maybe something will happen.
Okay. I see Becky's hand in the corner there.
My understanding is the next step is we were going to put together a committee to work on that application. Is that what you remember, Michael?
I don't remember it, but I think we were so happy to finish the planning grant process that I don't know if we got that far. So I'm just going to get information and then I'll shoot you whatever I get. There's nothing posted online yet that's substantive. So I don't have any plans and I actually think there's not enough bandwidth, but I thought since I'm on the meeting, I'd give you guys a heads up that
Right.
at least that's happening.
But I think that was the conversation in preparation of the next step was
Okay.
to put together a group of people to work on that. So maybe we can build off of what you're doing.
Okay. I'll send you whatever I learn.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Elaine has her.
Oh, hey, Elaine, go ahead.
So there's a group of people in town that have been working on an anti-racist platform, have been trying to work together. And there's one thing that I wanted to bring forward and I didn't know where I should bring it forward and how we should bring it forward. And that was to have a more somewhat more welcoming statement on the town website and to possibly figure out if there's a way to have the town information in different languages. And so I was just wondering where to go with that. Would it come to the select board? Would it, yeah, where do we go?
Good question.
There is the web committee, but I think approval would have to come from the select board
Yeah.
for a change like that, because it might mean some change in web policy. I'm not sure. If
Okay.
if we were to be consistently either using different languages, determining what other language you would use or languages, and that would probably end up being built into the policy of the website.
Okay, so start with the web committee and then come to you for approval?
I think that sounds right. Or if you had if the group had suggestions on the statement, what might make it more welcoming, the select board would have to be the ones that approve that, right, Becky? If I'm reading that right, yeah.
The statements.
Okay,
So we understand what direction you're heading in, I guess, is or your thoughts.
okay,
So I guess my suggestion would be send an email to the select board of the thoughts about it, and then we can mull it over. While you also go to the web committee for the language and such, right? The other additional languages and such.
and then you will put it on the agenda?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Yep.
Does anybody else have public comment? Raise your hand in the video. No? Okay. All right. Moving on. The review of the police study committee announcement.
Yeah.
Let me pop that up. I think this is it. That's it. Okay. Have you, April and Rita, you've had a chance to look at it, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Briefly. Yes.
All right. And we're happy with it and are ready to announce this. For those who are here that may not understand what we're talking about, the select board decided to create a police study group that would be charged with various tasks of collecting information and help inform recommendations of going forward with multiple options of a full-time police chief, a shared police chief, looking at those options among other things. It's a pretty big charge. So we're asking the community at large for 3 members, and we're asking people to ultimately send us a letter of interest and by, I don't see a date in here.
Didn't put a date.
Okay, well, we probably should decide what
Yeah.
date we'd like these. But anyway, that's the rundown of for anyone who may have missed previous meetings on the subject. So,
So Becky, this would be posted on Town Announce and on the website
It'll be on the
front page.
be on the front page with a link to the select board page
Okay.
where it will be with the charge,
Okay.
and it'll go out on Town Announce. with
Announce.
the charge.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what if we gave people a couple of weeks?
I think that's
Yeah,
probably a
I
good
think
idea.
that's reasonable.
Okay. So
that
2
lands
weeks
us-
from today.
that lands us. Hang on one second. I'll look at my calendar.
18th.
Or
The 18th,
the 18th.
and then we
Is-
could do it. Do we have a meeting on the 23rd? We do. No.
Mm-mm.
So do we want to do it maybe the Tuesday, the 16th, so that we have it by that next meeting? March 16th is our next meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay, so by 5 o'clock
On the
Tuesday,
the 16th.
the 16th.
Yeah.
Well, you might want to make it the day before. We're going to want to read them.
15th, yeah. Yeah,
Wait,
So
before 5 o'clock or noon on the
maybe noon,
16th.
because Becky, you'll want to get them together for us and
Yeah.
send
By
them out so we
noon,
can read them.
Tuesday, the 15th.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
And are we, I just read that announcement before the meeting started.
Mhm.
Are we asking them are we outlining what we expect them to put in that letter of interest, or it's just simply?
I was thinking the same thing, a letter of interest and then any pertinent, I don't want to say skill level, any pertinent background or such.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe
like,
just-
yeah, like relevant experience.
Yes, thank you. Any experience or special
Special interest,
interest.
because we're not really asking for qualifications, but we want to know kind of why would you like to do this?
Yep.
How about please please share any information that explains your interest in this topic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you need a vote on that?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I was just asking.
Didn't we already
Yeah, we
vote
gotta
on
keep
this?
Linda busy.
No, the charge. We didn't vote on the advertisement or the announcement. We only voted on the charge. So do I hear a motion?
Oh, you do, right
You-
here.
well,
I
okay, I hear a
moved.
motion to accept the announcement for our police study group.
So moved.
And I will second.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? No? All in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Okay. And now we are on to discuss the, we're a couple minutes early.
I know there's one of the iPhones out there is our police chief.
Yes, Dan, could you raise your voice on your iPhone?
Yes, yes. I can
I'm
do
going to
that.
rename you so we can determine who you are. Okay. I might have spelled that wrong.
No, that's good.
No, okay.
Dan, is that
not
you?
my forte.
Did you accept public comments already?
We did, Steve.
I'm sorry, Steve, were you late? Did you just get on?
I was late. I'll email it. I mean, yeah, I'll email it.
You sure?
I mean, I'm happy to read it if you'll let me, but yeah, but if I missed it, then I won't.
Why don't you email it to us then? Since you offered. Rita, April, that okay for?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Oh, I think I labeled the wrong Dan. Dan, did you just label yourself?
I wouldn't know how to do that, so probably not.
Okay, well, you also just shown up as. In
No, the
another-
other iPhone is still there.
Yep, and there's also a Daniel Fernandez.
Can you hear?
Anyway, all right. Oh, there's, hello. All right, so we have moved on to the Police Academy candidate. So, there we go. Dan, do you want to give us a little rundown of the information? For everyone who's
Excuse
here?
me. Yes, absolutely. So over the past 2.5 years of being chief in the town of Shutesbury, we've obviously dealt with some, staffing issues, as the select board knows and Becky knows. We've been dealing with them issues right throughout, trying to find the right people to fit, people to fit the Shutesbury mold. We got very lucky to be able to hire Marcus Johansson on. Last year, he has just completed the academy and he is back out on the road full time, which is awesome. And in our search for part-timers, last year, I think it's probably a year and about a month ago, we were searching for some part-timers and we were able to come across a very good candidate for the part-time position. Before searching for part-timers, we knew we were in a kind of a situation where we definitely didn't have a lot of females working in the Shutesbury Police Department at the time. We had zero. And there was certainly talk about let's try to get a female to come work in the Shutesbury Police Department. And I was all for it. But going into the meetings, we had a couple of female applicants. And it was actually my
Uh-oh.
You gone?
Done. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, where did I leave off?
You had 2 applicants that were female in the applicant pool, and it kind of dropped off after that.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay. So we had 2 female applicants that came in for interviews. Now, before they came in, I made a pretty conscious decision that I don't want to hire a female just for the fact that they're a female, because I just don't think that's fair to anybody. Well, I got blown right out of the water by Kristen Burgess when she came in and interviewed. Myself, Tom Hudak at the time, and Marcus both all walked back into the office after we left in the interviews, and we all looked at each other and said the same thing. We were like, that's the one. That's the person for the job. And it wasn't even close. There wasn't even I would say a distant second place for somebody else. So we were, very lucky to find somebody that is highly qualified for the job, and really over the past year has shown that community policing is alive and well in Shutesbury, and somebody that can actually communicate with everyone in the general public and do it in a way where there's sympathy and empathy and everything in between. We found that with Kristen, and I truly believe that. The hope obviously is to have 2 full-time officers for the town of Shutesbury, with the full-time chief. And, I think we've been very lucky to get Marcus in, and I honestly do believe that Kristen Burgess would be the next person to fill that role of full-time. I've been able to be on calls with her to show that, to see her work and give her all the leeway in the world, and I've not been disappointed. Right now, according to the FBI statistics, there's 11.6% of the policing population in the country is female. 11.6. And it kind of surprised me when I found that out. When you're able to have a more diverse policing force, you're able to solve problems in different ways from different perspectives. And I truly believe that Kristen and Marcus really do level each other out and bounce things off of each other in a great way. And I think.
Oh, you popped off, Dan.
And I think that they make a great team. And I think that them working together is going to be a great thing for the town of Shutesbury moving forward.
Okay. And you're requesting for Kristen to go to the police academy?
Yes. Now the next police academy for the Springfield Police Academy is slated to be sometime in September, October of 2021. Obviously, I know Becky and I have talked about the new post certification standards, which is peace officer standardized training, which is essentially a standard of training that has been adopted by a lot of states in the country. Now, Massachusetts is certainly ahead of most states as far as time spent training in the full-time academy, and also for updates throughout the year. So we are certainly ahead, but this post system essentially eliminates part-time officers. So this is something that the town of Shutesbury is going to have to look, pretty hard at as far as, picking up the right people in order to, kind of carry the torch throughout the new post system, and really kind of, I would say, investing their money wisely into somebody that's going to continue to grow with the department and with the town, and somebody that has the town's best interest in mind. And I truly do believe Kristen is the person for that job. We have had plenty of applicants, of course, not full-time trained, but plenty of applicants come in, and even some that are full-time trained, that, I truly wouldn't, I wouldn't hire. I'd rather just not have them if they're not going to be a good fit. Because I believe that, history does show us, even most recent history in the past few years here, that the town's, the liability to the town really does matter when it comes to staffing. And I think that we have a good core here, and to bump her up to full time is something that is going to be a great asset.
And by part-time and full-time, you're not talking about hours. For those that are here, he's talking about the police academies, right? Part-time.
Yes. So right now, Kristen's working an average of 32 hours a week. And she will be moved up to 40 hours a week. The police budget is already budgeted for that position. So there'll be no change in operational budget or salary budget for the police department. Actually, to kind of piggyback on that, the police department budget, and Becky, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I was able to actually save the town around $10,000 this year in the police department budget, where we actually were able to have a decrease in budget. And with that $10,000, you're almost 3/4 of the way there to send somebody through the academy.
Okay.
That's fact.
So we have done this before, a number of times since I've been on the board. And there is, it does put an additional stress on the police department, because you have one full-time person who's not available to work shifts. So that's a reality. And there's a cost to the town. And it's also been a way that we have been able to hire good people. I think Marcus is a good example of that. In the past, we have asked people who we sent to the academy to sign an agreement that they would stay working with the town for 5 years post-graduation from the academy. And if they don't, then they are responsible for paying back. They can't pay back their salary, but to pay back the cost of the academy to the town. So that has been something we've done in the past.
And I think it was prorated depending on what year the person left, if I remember
That's right.
correctly.
But I was also wondering if, Kristen, if you had something you wanted to add.
Sorry, I was having trouble with the mic. First, I want to say that I am completely humbled by what Dan said, and I'm very thankful to be working in such a great department. I have to tell you, I am absolutely in love with this town. I think anyone that has seen me in the town hall or around the town hall, I'm constantly saying how much I love this town. And I do mean that. I know it's very difficult sometimes to read people's hearts, and it's difficult at times to trust what people say, especially when people have left in the past. I would certainly be absolutely 100% willing to sign what is needed to stay, because God willing, you will be stuck with me for an extremely long time. I would very much like to continue my career here in Shutesbury.
Okay. Rita, did you have any questions or?
Yeah, the only question I had is I know that there's some history here from my time on the finance committee, and I think probably witnessing some discussion at a select board meeting a few years ago regarding having sent people to the academy and then they come back and find a better job. So, I just raise it because I know the finance committee has routinely talked about that, and obviously we can't hold anybody to staying once they've gotten through the academy, and that's the risk we run. So it's good to hear, Kristen, you say, you know, that you're very interested in staying here, because I think we make the financial commitment for you get paid for I believe it's 4 months. So we pay your salary for the 4 months that you're in the academy, but you are not obligated, other than the agreement you signed, which is, I think it's about $3,000 to pay us back if you leave. So it is a significant financial commitment on the part of the town to pay for somebody to go to the academy. So we want to feel confident that there is that commitment to stay.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. I'll just add that I have worked in another department before, and I know what I've got here. So, and I believe the town people know what they have here as well. It's a wonderful place to be. I'm very happy to be here, and I consider myself extremely lucky to be working here.
I had one other thing. Is there any consultation with the finance committee, or does this come up? I know it sounds like it's all within the budget, right? But
Yeah.
I think it usually is the select board, but Becky's going to answer that question, I think.
Well, I just want to say that this is our initial conversation. The select
okay.
board can choose if you're going to vote tonight on the issue, or decide to vote at at another meeting, maybe the next meeting, or after, if you want to make sure to talk to the finance committee about it, you will be meeting with the finance committee at the next meeting.
okay.
I think that the timing is kind of unusual. Right now, the next issue that Dan's going to address later on in the meeting is the hiring of another part-time officer. You know that the select board has chosen to go through a period of study about the police department. So we would have both Marcus and Kristen available until she went to the academy, which is projected not to be until August or September right now. But she would have to, the paperwork would have to start by April or May for that to happen, you know, to secure a slot, and even as early as March. So the sooner the select board decides, the sooner Dan potentially still being on as OIC, if we can get it done, if you do it before April, can push through the paperwork to do that. So it's important that Dan is looking strategically at how to keep the police department manned during that period, so that Marcus is not the last man standing like Dan was a year and a half, 2 years ago. I know Marcus is fabulous, but it's not a fun place to be when there's nobody
It is not.
in the room when you look around. So we want to be,
Yeah.
the goal is stability, and to achieve that stability, I think the timing that if we can get started on the academy training so that Kristen can go in the early fall and be back to us near the end of the year. I think it might be February. I don't know the timing, but we want to be careful of the stability of the department, and that's why we want to address this issue now, so the planning is in place and that the town still has the time to do the study while keeping a stable police department.
And Becky, could I say something, or
Oh, yep, go ahead, Dan.
yeah, so I just want to make it clear that this is not I'm leaving and this is the only option we have and we need to go with it. I don't want this to be thought of like that. This was the goal right along, and I know Becky and I have had conversations about this My goal was to get Kristen to full-time because I believe that she was a really good fit for the town. And over the past, year and a month, year and 2 months here, she's been able to prove herself every time. So this isn't something that is just on a whim in order to keep things running. This is something that, in my opinion, it's been my plan right along. It just so happens that I am leaving, and this is kind of the timeline that it's run into. Because Marcus just got out of the academy, and the goal was to try and get Kristen to the academy once he is out of the academy. So just so that's clear.
Yeah, Dan, you had mentioned that at another meeting beforehand too. A couple of things, but go ahead, Becky.
I also want to mention that on the MMA legislative update today, that was on Zoom, they discussed the new legislation, the post legislation that discusses how they're going to handle what happens with part-time officers. They haven't even established the working groups that are going to decide how this legislation becomes reality. And they're 6 months, they're already late in developing those groups. So it doesn't appear we'll have clear information on what will happen until, potentially the end of the year. The working groups aren't going to start until September or October. So waiting on that information, given our situation, is not reasonable. And the facts that we do know is that full-time trained academy officers will be in good standing. We have question marks on everything else. So I think it's important for the town to move ahead and have our two principal officers in good standing, no matter what transpires with the legislation down the road. And this is the best way to do that.
And like you said, Becky, it's unknown as to what that's going to look like, even once they figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So there certainly is a level of risk to the town, and I've seen it unfold in less than positive ways in the past. But I think sometimes you have to take somebody at their word. And I think Kristen is being very clear about her commitment to working here. And things change, but I think we have to take what we know now. I don't mind postponing the vote, but I also feel comfortable taking a vote today. So either way would be fine with me.
Yeah, I feel comfortable to take a vote today. Just
I'd rather wait.
That's what I thought.
I just, only because having been on the finance committee, I just think, and I know we only have one member here tonight from the FinCom, but it just becomes can become such a contentious issue with them that I would, since we're going to be meeting with them the next time, I mean, I'm very comfortable with moving ahead, but I really would like to preview it with them. To kind of just yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Becky, let's put it on the agenda maybe before we get into that other topic with the group.
Okay.
It usually takes a while. Let's put that this ahead of that, I think.
Will do.
Does that work for Rita and April?
Yeah,
This,
that's fine.
this item first before we get into that. Rita, you haven't experienced that particular conversation yet with this.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's lively.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so that will be on the agenda for the 16th.
16th, yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. Moving on, is there any other questions before we move off of that? No? Okay, we're good. So now we're following up on our AMP discussion with the municipal partnership last week, earlier this week.
No,
This week.
yesterday. This
I'm
morning,
sorry.
the one we had this morning.
Yeah. So does anyone have thoughts they'd like to share, or You know, I thought it was a pretty good discussion. It was pretty lively and a lot of information, a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
It you know, it certainly does sound beneficial to Shutesbury in some ways, and other ways it has its not so benefit, you know, cons, pros and cons to anything like that.
Mhm. You know, I keep thinking about it in terms of, you know, when I moved here 36 years ago, I feel like I was part of this new change that came into Shutesbury. And I remember the vote at the elementary school when we decided to, you know, to renovate the elementary school all those years ago. And I can't believe that that's 30 years ago, but it is.
I know, neither can I.
It's amazing. And there's risk and change. I mean, I think that's what I keep coming back to in my own mind. And I've been trying to think about what about this is most fearful to me. I guess that's where it comes down to. What am I afraid of? That we're going to be gobbled up by, you know, this big huge organization and spit out like poop or something. I don't know. But I also think of it in the context of an opportunity for our community. And I think that we would be remiss in not going to the next step. I think we have to trust our process, trust that that the planning board absolutely will hold they will do their hearings and it will be, if it's permittable, it will be permitted. But I think to stop it at this point would be, it's too soon. It would be too soon. I mean, there's so much, I keep coming back to, there's so much feeling in this town that taxes are too high, and I'm now on a fixed income and they are high. I mean, it's hard to live in this town, and we can sort of slice and dice little things out of our budget. But I think this gives the town an opportunity to really change, you know, the amount of income, you know, the taxes that come into our community. And I offset it with, I love the woods. I mean, I'm in the woods hours every day. I love them. I don't own them. And this will definitely change certain places that I love, that there's no doubt about it. But there's so much more in our town. You know, that it's a little piece of the woodland that we live in. But it's frightening. I mean, there's a lot to think about. There's a lot but I guess the bottom line for me is I think we need to move to the next step, that we would be remiss if we didn't.
I also had some similar thoughts after April, thinking about it. My property abuts the acreage that Wheelock is on, not directly with Wheelock, but the property, the 750 acres that's on. And so I have woods behind me that I don't own. Coles owns it, and how I'd feel about it. But the only thing I could see to bring this much money to town and help with the tax revenue is convenience stores and concrete parking lots and just all that development that we wouldn't necessarily want here, but that is one of the only other options. And the solar is passive and somewhat hidden, and with the population fields are somewhat natural as much as it can be with solar panels, you know. So that's where my thoughts had gone. And again, stopping it too soon, you know, if it's viable, it's viable, but we have to give it a chance to play out. Rita, did you want to comment, or?
Not right this moment.
Okay. I saw it. Becky, I saw your hand. Hold on one second, Michael. I saw Becky's hand.
I'm sorry, I had to take a phone call. So I just want to be clear that what we're talking about right now is not the solar bylaw that we're going to talk about at 7:10. But today we're talking about the potential for the partnership, right?
Mhm.
And I'm finding that there's a lot to learn about how the municipal partnership might work and to sort out. I'm going to dig in and try to get numbers from other contractors who do the kind of work they're talking about the town doing to get try to get a better sense of what it would mean if it should be something that the town would do with our own employees at any point, or if it would be better to subcontract if we were to go with that scenario with professionals that already do this work. So that's what I'm going to be working on, and whatever else the select board has concerns about regarding the partnership.
Well, in that light, what is our sense of the maintenance of the current up and running solar farm? I mean, how is that being handled right now? And
I reached out to Jeff Lacy to find that out. Michael's laughing probably for good reason. I don't believe there's been any maintenance for at least well over a year, which I originally found shocking. Then I learned that the special permit that Wheelock was issued allows for only one-time annual mowing of the property. The hope was to develop a natural wildflower fields under the panels. And I guess one problem that effort has run into is when they completed the project, we were right in the midst of mud season. So they laid down wood chips everywhere to sustain, to deal with the mud. And so the wildflowers are not flourishing as originally hoped. So I guess what is going to be required is also going to be what is allowed through the special permit as far as landscaping of the site.
So,
Rita?
Melissa, I do have a
And then Mike.
comment now.
Yeah.
Michael, can I
No,
preempt
please
you?
go. Yeah, you're the select
Since I'm on
board.
the select board. So I think partnership is a misnomer. I think, this is being presented in such a way as we're equals here with AMP, and we're by no means equals. What AMP is looking for is to contract with the town to do the maintenance. But they're also looking for this, some agreement, some contract around that maintenance work. But I want to be clear, we would be getting paid for services that have to be performed by somebody other than people, who are currently on the payroll in Shutesbury. So, it would be a contract between AMP and the town of Shutesbury, and Shutesbury in turn would either hire or contract with somebody. We realize no profits like a partners usually would. So there's no profit sharing here. There can't be. We can't go in as partners in the development. So again, this sort of partnership concept is again, to me, it's not really what I would see as a true partnership. By working with the town, what AMP is looking for is like we hold hands with them and say, yes, we're welcoming you. And what it does is it gives them a more streamlined approval process, as I understand it, with the State Department of Energy Resources. And that is something that they're very interested in having happen. I think the other thing that I want to just point out is something that Donna McNichol mentioned the other evening when we had the meeting. So for those of you who weren't there, AMP is looking for the select board to execute a memorandum of understanding, memorandum of agreement about kind of holding hands as I describe it. according to Donna, that there was a draft that Ann put together, and Donna basically said, anything we sign is not going to really say anything. It's that we can't make any promises. And we do have a process that has to be gone through here with other town boards that that I don't believe the select board should be stepping far out ahead of.
Mm-mm. But, and if we were not to sign off on the partnership, that would not negate their going forward.
That's
That
correct.
was my impression.
That is correct.
That was, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing idea. And if we can sort of, I would like to see us move towards that in a way that we're not under no obligation to, that it really is something that we're saying, okay, we're kind of interested, but we're not signing on the dotted line until we know you better, until we understand this better.
And Donna did say that the memorandum was non-binding too. It didn't bind us into the project or accept it without going through the process, I believe is a summary of what she had said at one point. So it's, it's not binding. So if we sign it, it doesn't guarantee the project.
Right.
The approval of the project, I'm sorry, project.
Or the partnership,
Or the partnership.
whatever you want to call that.
But yeah,
The SMART program.
Can I jump in, Melissa?
yeah, go ahead.
So
I also have my hand raised.
I see, yeah, Michael had his up earlier, but I do see you, Mary.
I accumulated a couple of points listening to you guys, but I'll be quick. Melissa, I think in terms of what you just said, I think Rita's interpretation was more accurate, which is that Donna would want to go through and create another document that's a lot less
Well,
committal.
yeah,
So-
we
yeah.
wouldn't do it without her, definitely her. doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I think, a couple of things. The reason I was chuckling when Becky talked about the maintenance is just that in the special permit for Wheelock, we required annual reports going to a range of people, the fire chief, the planning board, the select board, the building commissioner, and we've gotten none so far. So that's why I was chuckling, because the answer to how things are going, no one knows, because the required reports have never been submitted. So the planning board realized that last year. I don't think there's been any follow-up. So that's just an interesting thing to note. And then I guess, I was listening, April, the way you framed it as it's, the solar idea is something good we shouldn't be scared of. Just to frame it, what you guys are, what you are focused on is the MOU. It's not solar versus not solar. It's do
Right.
you take onto this relationship or not? So I think it's really important, because people can misinterpret and say, if you say no, there's no solar, and I'm for solar, so I don't want to say no. And it's really, that's not the choice. The choice is, do you have this relationship or not with a developer, not about solar, because that's the permitting process. So just to be clear. And then I do support Becky doing more research. I mean, I've done some research in the last couple of days since the meeting. And just to be, I think it's a spin job in terms of calling it a public-private partnership. There is no partnership. In my opinion, it's contractual. But the thing that I would put out there is that I was actually wrong. So when Evan talked about this April 2020 update of the regulations, there's a concept that they have. So for the projects that get smart money, you can get a certain rate, and then you have what's called adders. So they're add-on, you get more money for doing certain things in certain ways. And so if you become a public entity, which is what they're trying to do, originally it was 0.02, I think it's out of cents, or 0.02 something on kilowatt hours, and it's now double as of April to 0.02, 0.04.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, by having a contractual agreement, they're making more money. So it's not about being magnanimous with the town. They're making more money. And so I would say, even though I didn't want us to do it, if you went forward, you should go in with 2 feet and negotiate hard. Because if the only reason to do this is to get money for the town, if they're making lots of money, we should be making more money. We shouldn't get crumbs. It should be active negotiation. And then I think the other point, just that Rita is totally right on, is that The reason they're doing it aside from money, and I think actually beyond the money, is that by becoming a public entity project, meaning as soon as they have a contractual agreement with the town, which is a municipality, they get into a different status. And because state government is government, they want to support municipal projects. And so that status gets much more beneficial treatment. And so it's advantageous for them to partner with us because things get easier, they get more money, they can cite it in ways that they otherwise couldn't cite it. There's a whole host of things that Evan sort of alluded to. And I guess I would I did my research, but I would say for Becky to continue to do the research on on behalf of the select board. So if you go in, they're getting huge benefit. And you should know that that's a negotiating point for the select board. If you want more money and they want to benefit, that's negotiating room. But bottom line is it's not magnanimous at all. And it is a contractual agreement.
All right. It feels like we're certainly not ready to vote on it tonight. So more research to do, check in
Well,
again.
I had a comment.
I'm sorry, Mary. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw this out there because, my understanding is that the solar industry is highly complex and that solar developers use all sorts of consultants, industry consultants to help them develop and shepherd projects. And I'm glad to hear that we're doing some research and doing our due diligence to evaluate this. I also think it's a steep learning curve for us to get up to speed with a very complex industry. And it makes me wonder whether perhaps the town might want to consider looking for an industry consultant to help evaluate what would be an appropriate contract and how to value it.
Becky, go ahead.
I think consultants do have value, and I think we will be talking about what kind of consultants potentially we would want to have. I know we did have a pilot, quote unquote, expert assist in the last pilot, and I found that we did not come up with as good a product as we had prepared without a consultant in the prior round. So we will, I will make sure if we do, and when we get a good consultant, that they do help us and that we don't pay a lot of money for something that wasn't worth it.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Miriam. As I was saying before, I don't think we're ready to vote on anything tonight. More research certainly. So we'll just keep it on our agenda, rotating on our agenda to check in like we've done with other objects. Okay, with other topics.
Yes.
Thank
That
you for all
sounds
your
good.
comments. Yeah.
Melissa, I want to remind you
go ahead.
that Rita has to leave in 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
And then we
Okay.
have
Linda.
Michael and a number of other people.
And then just remember for you guys to let us back in if.
Oh, you should be able to
Okay.
pop back in.
Okay, we
You'll pop
shouldn't
back
need,
in.
okay,
Yeah, you're not going to be locked out.
okay, great. Thanks.
Let's see, part-time regional response to request for appointment was on our next list. Go ahead, Becky.
So at this time, we have a request from the Historical Commission Chair from Henry Geddes to appoint Azell to the Historical Commission.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Azell's last name, Rita, could you help me? I
This is
forgot.
like Floriana.
Florian.
I'm not sure if I'm, yeah.
Apologize.
Was that a vote by the Historical Commission?
I see Henry is here.
Yes, it
Henry-
was.
Okay,
It was,
okay, Miriam.
okay.
Yes, indeed.
Wonderful.
Florinina.
Florinina,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we feel comfortable with appointing Azell to the Historical Commission?
I'd just like to hear either from Miriam or Henry,
Yeah.
kind of what your deliberations were.
Do you want me to say something, Henry, or do you?
No, I can step in. Yeah, we had a vote and Zell came up as a person who has considerable experience writing grants, which is something that we consider very important going forward. We're trying to raise funds to do various projects. She's also got a very long record of very creative use of educational materials, performance, which we find very interesting as well. I'm not sure what else.
No, that's
interested in.
good.
No? Yeah.
Mhm.
She got interested in the town history when she helped out with the Celebrate Shutesbury 250th celebration. She wrote the play that was put on the town common.
Oh,
All right.
great. Oh, okay. That's good to know. Okay, so I have 2 minutes. Do you want a motion?
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay, I move that we appoint Zell, last name, to the Historic Commission.
And I'll second.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
And I'll be back.
Okay, thanks.
Have
Leah.
fun.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, Linda.
Over to you, Becky.
All right.
Okay, oh, Linda's leaving too. Okay. I guess, April, we move on to the appointment of a new police officer.
Yeah,
Dan,
yes. Where is Dan?
That's me.
there you go. You'd like to appoint a new part-time police officer. This is part-time hours, right? Wise?
Yes,
Not
yes,
to
this is
confuse
going to
with
be
part-time police
one.
academy. Okay.
This is going to be 1 to 2 shifts a week. We had been accepting applications to the Shutesbury Police Department, and we haven't had the best luck to find the best people we wanted. But we did have one person that we did interview. Her name is Taylor Boudry, and she is on the call tonight.
I saw her
She'd
name.
be training with Marcus and Kristen to get started. She did just complete the part-time academy in its entirety, and we are hoping that she's going to work 1 to 2 shifts a week moving forward from here. That's the plan.
Okay.
I'd love to hear from you, Taylor. What brings you here?
So I actually spent some time in Shutesbury as a kid. I got brought to Lake Wyola very, very young. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. And I actually remembered my entire way there, all the way from Granby by memory, to tell my mom how to get me back there because I couldn't wait to return. I had applied. It reminds me very much of growing up in Granby, like the small town feel. And I am very eager to start a career in law enforcement. And I really was looking for a department that was small, very community-based, to get to know the people in the town and spend time with everyone. I had worked in customer service positions the majority of my life.
Yeah.
I just really like working with people.
So as you think about, working here, what strengths do you feel like you would bring to this position?
Like I said, I really like to work with people. So I think one strength that I have is being able to communicate with people, communicate at multiple different levels in a way that makes people feel comfortable and safe. I like to be able to communicate with people in stressful situations. I've personally been in many stressful situations in my life that are similar that I would be dealing with. And I think that I've had some really great people over the years in my own personal situations guide me on how to handle dealing with people in those situations as well. I feel I'm good at putting myself in someone else's position and understanding that what might not seem like a big deal to me is something that's a big deal to them, and helping them through that, and recognizing that everyone has different views on everything, and working to help them feel comfortable and safe, and feel like I'm actually helping them and that I care, because I do.
The flip side of that is where do you think your learning edge is? What are you finding most challenging as you entered this career?
I'll be honest, I haven't had any time really out on the road, so this is completely new to me. So I don't have a lot of things just yet without having the experience. I know I am going to face some challenges of things that I am not familiar with, but I am very prepared to come into different situations and find out how to do the best that I can. After interviewing the other night, I am very confident that I would have some great people training me in how to handle those situations that I'm not entirely prepared for currently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you, what do you see as a benefit to working in a small town versus a large town?
A huge benefit is getting to actually be able to get to know people, knowing who grew up where, who likes to, I don't know, play poker on Wednesday nights, who hangs out where, what kids went to school here, who has cows, who has dogs, and just really getting to know people, knowing their strengths, issues that they may have, their family history, things that really allow you to know the person when you're approaching a situation. So if someone's calling in distress, I might know a little bit more about that person, whereas in a larger city, I could be dealing with someone I've never encountered before.
So I'm curious. So you went to the academy with Marcus, is that right? You just
No, I did not. I actually went to the Reserve Academy. So it was very, very different. It's about half of what you learn in the full-time academy. So we cover just about everything, just not the same amount of hours. There are quite a few differences, but they basically, in this academy, they prepare you to be able to work on your own, just not at the extent of a full-time officer.
And I'm also curious, what music do you like? Because clearly music is important to you.
I actually can't take credit for this. I personally do love all types of music. I listen to a little bit of everything. I grew up with a lot of country music, but these are my boyfriends. I can't take credit for that. You wouldn't want to hear me play.
It's a great collection. Yeah.
Becky, you raised your hand.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about your educational background?
Sure. So I am a graduate of Granby High School. I graduated high school in 2012. After that, I went to Holyoke Community College. I spent about a year and a half there for criminal justice, working towards my associate's degree. I have not completed that. It is something that I do plan to return to. I had taken a hiatus to actually go to North Carolina. I graduated a dog training school down there. I left here in 2015, moved down to North Carolina for 6 months, where I learned how to train everything from pet dogs, service dogs, police dogs, and work with dogs with different types of issues. And then after that, I came home, I started doing my business, and I also decided that the police academy was something that I wanted to do after my whole life wanting to get into law enforcement. I said, now's the time to do it. And so that would be the next step in my education, is the Reserve Academy that I graduated in January of this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it's ironic that we certainly have dog complaints and so in your training, you learn to deal with the owner of the barking dog that won't stop barking. That has come up.
Well, you know what, and that was one of those things, working in my business. I've had my dog training business for, I'm going on 6 years now, 5 years. And in that, my business all revolved around the people. I was working with the people, so I would get all kinds of jokes about training the people.
Yes. I've been to dog training school, yes.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
April, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Taylor Beaudry. Is it Beaudry?
It's Boudry.
Boudry, as a part-time police officer to the town of Shutesbury.
Okay, I will second that motion. Oh, Becky, go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you just spell your last name for me? I've taken over as secretary and.
Sure. It's like Bravo.
Yep.
EAUD like dog, RY.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Melissa.
That's no problem. Okay, I'll second that. And is there any further discussion or questions? Okay,
No.
all in favor?
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Congratulations, Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Shutesbury.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some dog issues. with my dog.
Happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Melissa,
Yes, Dan.
is there anything else the select board would like to speak with me about?
I don't.
It's not a loaded question. It's not,
Well,
this isn't some, this,
since you asked, I don't see anything else on our.
Yep. There's one more thing, the
great.
memorandum of understanding
Oh, yes, there is one thing.
that needs to get voted by the select board tonight. And I'm hoping, Dan,
oh, he already sent you that, Becky?
no, I sent it to you.
Oh, this is for me. Yes.
Yours.
Yes, I'm thinking the other thing with the union. That's what I'm seeing. So
Right. That the union MOU is a different issue, but another open issue.
well, Becky, it's not an issue. It's something that, it's a solution, right?
Okay.
Just make it sound better. Hold on here. I'm just
So
trying.
So the select board, you
So
do
we're-
have the MOA of agreement between Dan Fernandez and the Shutesbury Select Board.
Okay, shall we talk about that now?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, also in light of the fact that you were going to be our chief of police for another 48 hours. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the
Oh.
plan.
that's the plan. Okay.
That's the plan. Unless you fire me, I'm still here.
Too late.
Too-
No.
Okay,
Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it.
got it?
Yep.
Okay. The 6th.
And this is the agreement that just secures that Dan will be
Yep.
on working for 8 hours a week until April 15th.
Mhm.
And doing administrative tasks, management tasks, and he will also be on call 24/7 to support the officers in the department.
Yep.
Yep.
This is what we've talked about.
Yeah, as a transition.
The transition that Dan proposed.
Yep.
Yes, Becky, that looks great.
I do see one small edit, Becky. There should be a $sign instead of $sign in front of 40.
Got it.
Oh, I thought that was million.
Oh, no, there doesn't, because it's 40 and then it says $1 per day, $40 per day.
So
That's
it
why
doesn't-
it's not in.
Was it 40 million,
Doesn't-
Becky? Or was it 40?
No.
No, so there should be an S on the dollars
So
then.
that would need to be an edit, Dan.
And so the S, we'll take the $sign and turn it into an S after dollars. After
Yeah.
dollar.
Okay.
$40 a day stipend or 40.
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah, okay.
add the F.
Okay. April, do you have any questions? Do you have a motion?
Yes, and it's actually, it's happy and sad. It's sad to make this motion because that means that, Dan
We
is
have him.
leaving.
Yeah.
But this is really helpful to get us through this challenging time. So I move to accept the motion of MOA, thank you, between the town of Shutesbury and Dan Fernandez.
Okay. I'll second that. And if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. And Dan, thank you for helping us with this transition and helping us with this and
Well,
being available.
well, first of all, I really can't. I mean, it is something I think is necessary, but really, I mean, I do need to, and I know I've said it before, but I need to thank the town of Shutesbury for allowing me to be in this position. I think that, and I thought I saw Elaine on the call, and April and Melissa, without all three of you taking a chance with me, being this, I think I was 29 at the time, 29-year-old guy who really didn't have much in the way of experience for supervisory experience in the police world. You know, I just thank you for taking the chance with me, and I really hope that you didn't regret it in any way. And I can promise you that I don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon, so I'll still be around. But I need to thank everybody that took a chance and really, you know, threw up a Hail Mary. I hope it paid off.
Well, I also think that you have to understand that when the next time we have a Celebrate Shutesbury, there's a role in that for you.
I was already told that I am going. That's actually what I was told by Mary Ann at the library. She said, "You're going to Celebrate Shutesbury." So I don't even think it wasn't like, "Hey, I'm inviting you to go." It was more of a directive. So I guess I'll be there.
Think strings, think donuts, just.
Now, April, it's been a failure every single year for me. And the fact that the fire chief can beat a cop in a donut eating contest really frustrates me to no end.
But you do it gracefully and with humor, Dan.
Ah, yes.
Not so
yes.
much.
But I'm still hungry at the end of it. This
I know, it's ridiculous. There's no way to eat.
It's all in good fun.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. So now, Dan, to answer your question, I think that we don't have anything left on the agenda, particularly to you.
Yes, well, that's good. Like I said, thank you both, and Elaine as well. And you know, it really was a huge learning experience, as Becky kind of, you know, alluded to in the beginning of the meeting about working essentially by yourself. We certainly don't want anybody to do that, but it was a big learning experience, and I had a lot of help from Becky as well. And you know, it was something I couldn't have done with without all the people around me. So, thank you.
And good luck in your next adventure.
Yes, yes. Becky has her. Don't go anywhere, Dan. Becky has her hand up.
Oh, what's up?
You need to unmute yourself, Becky.
I just wanted to say that, Dan, you from day one had an amazing positive attitude, but your ability to solve problems and research things in minutes and hours that other people at your predecessors weren't able to do or were confounded by. To institute new policies and programs that enhance the police department within 6 months of your becoming not chief, but officer in charge. Those were great accomplishments. You grabbed the bull by the horns and kept stability within town in a seamless manner, even when I'm sure you felt totally overwhelmed. So I really appreciate your skills in learning from other people and doing so much for our community. Thank you, Dan.
Well, thank you, Becky.
Beautifully said, Becky. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. We will miss you.
Again, I'm not going.
I know you're not gonna.
I'll be here. I'll be here once we can all join again in person. You know, that'll be a good time. So hopefully it's sooner than later.
Right. Good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We now, Dan, have to move on in our meeting.
Okay. Thank you. You all have a good night.
You.
Yes, you too.
Okay. So the next item is the regional assessment.
I just wanted to give some updates to the select board. There's Steve. Steve can help with these updates. as our regional school representative.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation about a week ago with Andy Steinberg, reviewing what happened at the last board town meeting. And basically his message was that he is hopeful that Shutesbury will support a 55% method in the assessment, that he is not comfortable continuing down the path to increasing it more without potentially a study group or a working group this summer or something of that nature.
Mm.
And in response to my
Everybody.
questioning his comments about dissolving the region that he made at the Fort Town meeting, he said, while he made those comments, he was speaking for other people when he made them, and that other counselors, and that their concern is for the overall continued health of the region, that they don't believe that they can sustain the annual increases that would be necessary to keep from more cuts at 2.5%. When I talked to him that day, I failed to point out that he wasn't offering 2.5% this year. They offered 0, and then they went up to 1.5%. And I do believe in the last 2 or 3 years, they have funded under 2.5% as well. So there's some of his comments that I basically just listened. I told him I would be speaking with the select board and the finance committee in the next week or so, and that I would share his comments. I also had an email exchange with Doug Slaughter, finance director for the Amherst region this afternoon, where he inquired what date Shutesbury would need the assessment language by for annual town meeting. I let him know our annual town meeting date is June 12th. And I asked him if the school committee had already voted the assessment method or was planning to imminently. And this is where we can get help from Steve. But he emailed back and said that they hadn't voted. There will be another hearing on the regional budget next Tuesday night. And he expected the regional school committee to vote on an assessment method in the next 2 weeks. I also asked him if there would be another town meeting, and he indicated he did not think so. So I just wanted to share that information with you, the select board, and I'm sure Steve has some comments to share, and then get your feedback on it.
Steve, do you have any comments to share?
No, the only thing the school committee, I missed the budget meeting that they had because I was out plowing. It was the Tuesday after the meeting, and the assessment method really wasn't discussed. It was really just an hour and a half of 8 school committee members venting about how the 1.5% from Amherst wasn't enough to support the budget. And yeah, it'll be in 2 weeks from Tuesday will be when we take our vote.
Yeah.
Oh, and there should be, Doug promised us on around 10:30 Tuesday night when we were still meeting that hopefully tonight or sometime tomorrow, we will get the PowerPoint for Tuesday so we can see it. And if I do get it, I'll forward it around.
That would be helpful.
That would be.
So right now we're at the assessment method, we're at 45% towards statutory. That's correct.
Correct.
And they're willing, according, So
Amherst,
Andy-
Andy is representing, Amherst is willing to go to 55 for this, for FY '22, which was under discussion. But would not go farther later without further
Working groups.
working groups or education. And I do agree that Amherst, the city council, the town councilors in Amherst are in desperate need of education. They did not have a real handle on the method or actually the regional budget, from what I could tell.
Well, and with the dissolving of the region, that means they take on all of the costs themselves, minus the few students that Lever and Shutesbury sent. And Pelham. Well, no, that Pelham might stay, but I mean, that increases their costs though.
Right, and the other thing Andy did acknowledge that it's not feasible. The proposal to dissolve is legally, has a legal barrier in the fact that you can't dissolve the regional agreement without agreement from all 4 towns.
Okay.
So for Amherst to think that they can throw us out is, from what Andy agreed to, it's not legally within their realm, unless their intent is to sue and breach a contract, which would be remarkable. And I'm sure we could give, it would be costly and a waste of money for everyone.
Yeah.
So I don't see them going down that path, but their counselors did not even have the knowledge that they were proposing something they cannot do.
That's right. They can't.
Right.
The thought of another study group is not wonderful. I mean, how many have we had?
I think
Big one.
5.
It's going over, what, 8 years, something
And
like that?
people can't even remember what we covered in the prior study group. So I
Well,
think-
and some people are brand new, like the counselors are, you know, I mean, they're new to the table in
Yeah.
a lot of ways that others are grandfathered or whatever that other word is. There's a lot of institutional knowledge among those that have been through at least 1 or 2 of those groups, you know.
I do want to, I hope the school committee, and maybe you can tell us this, Steve, did the school committee vote on whether to have a DESE workshop about the statutory method?
Nope, it wasn't even discussed.
Because Mike Morris told me he would take that question to the school committee.
Maybe we'll get that on Tuesday.
Okay, I'll follow up with Mike and check and see if they.
Tuesday is another scheduled budget hearing, so maybe it'll be Tuesday.
Okay. Because I think that would be important, not so much a working group, but as an educational sessions. And then maybe some decision making, but I think the equity and ability to pay issues are going to remain important. Whoever is benefits from them, which is always revolves between 1 of the 2 of the 4 towns. So.
And right now it's us, but that could change.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there's no guarantee.
Right.
So I think that's a good point that, you know, it's like they're making decisions on something they don't really know what it is. And I thought that was a very good training, the last round, whenever that was, and, you know, it was helpful. And it's not magic.
No.
It'll be, yeah. I don't know.
And are they looking for feedback from us, like to push for 65, or are they?
Well, I think that's what I'm looking for, to find if we are to settle, if there's not going to be another meeting, I think there would need to, and something would have to happen in the next 2 weeks for the regional school committee to consider anything but the 55. And so what do you think, Steve? I mean,
It sounded like 55 can happen, but anything else, there's just no way.
okay. And that's what you're hearing from the other towns?
Yes, that, yeah.
What did you hear from Pelham?
Pelham, they said they were good. It sounded like they were good with the 65, but Amherst is not, and neither is Leverett.
Yeah, Leverett and the before town meeting wanted to go backwards.
Well,
They just wanted to backwards.
That's what
You know.
I it all out, because I wonder, would it help to have, you know, a joint letter from the select board and finance committee? I don't know if there's time to do that, to restate our position, because it's not impossible that if this were to come to town meeting floor is 55%, that the town would vote it down.
It was close last time at whatever, at 45. I mean, there was a lot of pushback.
You know,
I think it was actually 40 then.
40, I'm
or
sorry, 40.
35.
yeah,
Because there was a lot of pushback then, you know?
right. I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it just, that whole meeting was so disarming in a way, or that's not the word. It was just surprising, like we were speaking two different languages.
Mhm.
And that the history that had happened over the last years hadn't happened.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of emotion behind it.
Yeah.
And I think part of Amherst is sticking behind the fact that they raised from 0 to 1.5, could be, you know, that they could have an increase of 1.5. And the way the numbers fall, the 55 hits at 1.49555. So it fits their guidance and they'll cling to that.
You know, it's just, it's our kids' education is what's at stake in this. You know,
Yep.
it's just cutting and cutting, and it's especially as we're coming out of, I hope, this pandemic and getting back into more normal. There's going to be a lot of, I imagine, a lot of remediation, and cutting things is not going to help.
So do you want to write a letter saying if Amherst funds it at 2.5%, then you'll support the 65%? Throw it all at them, or what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Or do you want to think about it? You will be meeting, you have a joint meeting with the Finance Committee and Personnel Board. Maybe at the end of the meeting, you could talk
I would
about
like
the
that.
issue together with the
Yeah.
Finance Committee.
That's not a bad idea.
Because on the other hand, I also do want to acknowledge that they're willing to move in some direction, that they're not, you know, the idea of taking it all off the table, that doesn't sound like where they're going.
No, that's what Leverett wanted to do. And I think that they're trying to meet it halfway
Yeah.
between what we had come out with and what is that. So, or you're right, that at least should be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, I don't envy these meetings.
No. Oh, man.
That's all right. No, this vote is easy. I just do what you guys tell me to do. I don't have to, this one's not on me. Although I did vote on Tuesday night to change, we flipped the start times. The high school is now going to start later and the elementary schools will start earlier, which means for Shutesbury, most likely a 20-minute switch in start times to go earlier, just because of the buses.
Oh, for the elementary school?
Yep. And, you know, for 7 years, I said, no. But with the loss of Kosmeskis as a bus company, I said yes, because it would be easier to work with one company than with two.
Ah, that's good.
And I think currently, at least my nephew, one starts, he's going to elementary school in the morning. He starts before the middle school, who starts at 9, you know, now, at least Trevor.
Yeah, that's how we kind of did it, was because everyone liked starting at 9. So we don't know what the start time will be. And the other thing we did was we've said that the middle school and high school, we're going to try and get them, those that want to be in and can be in, by April 26th.
Okay.
For 2 days a week.
Okay. Yeah.
When do you have your joint meeting with the finance committee?
The 16th. right? Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did. You
Yeah.
did.
Oh, is that, good night.
Yeah, the 16th, Steve. Did you want to attend?
Great, thank you.
I'll have more info for you after our meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, that would
So
help.
it might be that you might be voting on the 16th. Is that a possibility, Steve, on the regional assessment formula?
Yeah, because that would be 2 weeks. Yep. Yeah, that would, yeah, the day before St.
So-
Patrick's Day.
So if the select board wants to discuss this with the finance committee, you need to go to their finance committee meeting on the 9th when they discuss it.
Why don't we pop in on their meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
and
would
I'll
like to
post
hear
that for you guys.
Okay, the 9th is when? Hold on, let me look at my
Next
calendar.
this coming Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise you'll have some school committee rep going rogue on you.
Oh,
No,
we
no,
would want a
Patty's
school
gonna
committee rep
say.
going rogue.
And I'll include the school committee, see if they can want to attend as well on the 9th.
Yeah.
Okay.
What time is their,
They meet late, don't they, at 7?
They meet at 7, but I haven't, I'll look at the agenda tonight and, yeah, because, I have to post by tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Monday's not a holiday, right? Okay.
Not yet,
I like that, not yet.
not yet, not yet.
We have not deemed it a holiday here in Shutesbury. Okay,
So
all right, I put that on my calendar.
That'll be 7 or after.
Okay, I put it on for 7, but if it changes, just let me know.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so
Well,
more discussion on that topic. Okay, thank you,
Hi,
Steve.
Steve.
So moving on to, item rescheduled. We're a little early for the discussion on the solar bylaw. I think, we have that scheduled at 7:10.
Maybe we could do some minutes in the meantime.
Yes, let's do some minutes.
Where are we on the minutes? Where are we?
I think you're looking at the 23rd,
Yeah.
of
Did we did the 18th already? No. Yes. Never mind.
I'm pulling
Let
it
me look.
down. Where is it? And the shed, I loved that picture of the shed.
Yes. It's in place.
I don't really believe it.
Have you seen it?
No, I have to go check it out.
Eve and I were both surprised because Meryl was very clear that we had to have a specific paint color for the trim that Jackie had agreed to. And I always thought it was going to match the school.
Mhm.
So did Steve. It's violet. It doesn't match the school at all.
Okay.
But that is what Jackie and Meryl agreed, Jackie agreed to the color that Meryl chose. So it is a lovely violet. The body of the shed is painted the same color as the body of the school, but the trims are different.
Let me look at that again. It is the minutes of the 23rd. I just.
Yes, I see them.
found those,
Yep.
yes.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of the 23rd?
So moved.
Are there any edits or adjustments?
No.
Okay. And if Linda and Becky, thank you for your beautiful minutes.
Yeah.
And
I'll-
I do have to this up. I did not get through these minutes. I'm
both.
not sure. They were an endless number of pages with our,
There's four.
I apologize.
pages.
I'm sorry, I didn't get all the way through them. So Linda must have done a perfect job.
Oh, she does. You
Yes.
both do a great job,
Yes.
individually or together. You do a great job. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Stein, aye.
Make Peace O'Neill, aye.
Good.
Okay.
Oh,
We
there
had
it
done
is.
the 18th before, I think, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I was just scrolling through to look at the color of the shed. That is a powerful trim color. It looks playful.
It does. Oh. Are there any updates, Becky? Oh, I just pulled it up on my screen. That is a very lovely bright color.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's nice.
It is. It's the same, but has its own character.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay, so I have a couple of updates.
okay.
One is Nancy Matthews has completed the work in my office. And it's absolutely stunning.
You're not there yet.
I'm not there yet. The work that has to be done is all the three filing cabinets and this bookshelf, my 5-foot bookshelf has to get emptied and moved in there. So I need to schedule, I need to figure out how to do that the most strategic way.
Well, I know that the custodian has experience doing those things.
Oh, wonderful. That is good news. So I have those pieces, but the new closet space is just amazing.
Which you didn't have before, really.
It's a new space, never had it before, and I think it's going to make a world of difference. And it came out very nice. She did excellent work, and I'm very appreciative to the insurance company for paying for it all. And but it's so amazing to have a ceiling that before it used to be a drop ceiling. Now it's a continuous ceiling, the same height all the way across, and there's no hanging insulation from it.
Oh,
The roofer, no bats will be flying through that trap door anymore. Which is good for everybody in town hall. And
There'll be just no excitement anymore, will there?
we'll think of something. But the roofer was here today as well. You know that we still had a continuing leak down the chimney. So he made a repair to the chimney that potentially might solve it. We found that there's a whole, like a 12, 15-inch section of missing cement between a series of bricks.
Oh.
That he thinks, quite a bit of water was coming in. So he's repaired that, and we'll be checking at the next rainstorm to see if it holds up. But it's a very good chance it should hold up. So I might lose my water feature, but that's going to be okay.
get one of those, like a Zen water fountain.
Yeah.
That could remind you of it, I think. I'm so glad. How long have you been out of that office?
A year.
Oh, gosh, at least a year. It was before COVID, wasn't it? Yeah.
It had, a little more than a year. Here's Elaine
It
and
was
Mike.
way yeah. Well, now you have new digs.
Yes.
Good.
Right on time, you guys. Whoa.
Alan ran the meeting.
The choreography is crazy.
What was the music? Good.
So I was just finishing up my town administrator updates that my Nancy Matthews has completed my new office. The only thing left is to get
Great.
the floors, the carpet shampooed. That was part of the insurance. They said they would come back when we finished the work. So hopefully they remember us from last year. And we'll
What
come-
company did you use?
I have to look. It was a vendor through the insurance company. I don't recall their name. They weren't local.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
Okay, back on track. Now we're at 7:10, and the next item on our list is the discussion of the solar bylaw, AG's response to amendments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I know you all have been asking a lot of questions over the last month or few months about what the AG's response means and what the select board could potentially do to get a better understanding of that. And I think that's pretty much why we're talking about it tonight.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, and I'm just bringing the, I don't know, hold on. I just want to bring them up on my screen in case we want to reference it. Becky, you didn't send that out with the packet, did you? No.
No.
I did not send it again. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's okay.
Do you have
I'll
a
send it.
hand? I've got a copy here.
I think I have a copy right here if you want me to send it out. Here's the SMART agreement for you.
Trying to remember how long it was, Becky. Is it something you could screen share? Or is it too dense?
It was quite a long letter, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, most of it. It's like three.
It's only about
three-
4 pages.
Yeah, it's about 3 pages.
Was that 3
um,
pages?
No, it's double-sided, so it's about 10 pages.
No.
Grace,
Okay, let's
say something.
not-
He has it.
It's on the town website. It's on the page that I set up for collecting and presenting information, resources, and documents about this conversation, because I've been getting a lot of records requests. People want to know stuff. So I've got a
there it
page
is.
on the town website. It's linked to the select board page and the home page on the town website, and you can click there and it'll go and it'll have all the information, and it has the letter from the Attorney General's office.
Oh, I got it right here. Thank you, Grace.
Yeah.
That was very easy.
That's the idea.
I appreciate that. If you want, I can screen share it if it's something we think that
Yeah.
Rita and April. Okay, hold on one second.
It's only, the part on the solar is only 3 pages from what
Oh.
I understand. Is that what?
Right, where you, there is discussion of the sign language as well, but the majority of it is on the solar.
Right.
So here, I'll share it. Hang on one second. Let me know if you can see it. Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay. I can increase it
Yep.
so we can read it. Oops. Okay. All right. So this is their response to our solar bylaw that we agreed, or that we voted on town meeting. Okay. And Becky, did you have options that we had to discuss as well?
Oops.
I'm sorry. You guys can see that I shouldn't be
There it
poking
is.
around. Okay. All right. I can scroll if we want to take them kind of one by one, or what procedure would we like to do? I don't know how to make you guys all bigger.
Yeah.
I guess more broadly, rather than talking about specific
Okay.
articles, the question that I think are out there, if you kind of go down to the paragraph where it starts, General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems, so forth and so on. And, reference was made about this law by AMP in saying, do our now approved by the Attorney General, do these bylaws unreasonably regulate the installation of energy systems or building of structures? So that seems to me to be sort of, a question that we would want answered, but and maybe it doesn't get answered until proposals are submitted and then somebody, the developer, challenges what our planning board says.
Melissa,
you
can
might-
I contextualize?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
So, I mean, that statute, it's not Shutesbury alone. It's every town or municipality that has a solar bylaw. And so I think you all know, but the history of that line in statute came around in the 70s. And so the idea was in the 1970s, you couldn't unreasonably regulate rooftop photovoltaics. That's where it came from. And so in the 70s, there was no such thing as large scale industrial photovoltaic developments. And so it's antiquated. What's really interesting is so DEOER, which is the agency that regulates all this stuff, in 2014 came out with model bylaws, which I read way back when. And it talks about things that a town should put in for bylaws. And it has a big asterisk that says, oh, by the way, this is what statute says. And you have to be aware of that if you're creating a bylaw. More recently, in the last few months, PVPC, which is the Hampshire Hamden equivalent to FERCog, came out with a guidebook about how to develop bylaws for municipalities. And it's multiple pages and really in depth. And they also have an asterisk that says, oh, by the way, statute 40A section 3 says you can't unreasonably regulate. So what's the problem in the state is that there's all these municipalities and state agencies and planning boards that are sort of, or planning agencies that are sort of saying, here is how you sort of reasonably regulate, but they all harken back to this underlying, it's like a weak brick in the wall. People are sort of building a structure of regulation, but there's something that's wiggly at the bottom. And so I think the only thing I would suggest is my takeaway was, Evan, I got the impression Evan was saying, you guys are doing something really sort of out of sorts. And it doesn't matter what town and how it's written, any solar bylaw can be challenged because it's regulating. And then I think, Rita, you're actually correct. I mean, until it gets litigated by some developer at some point, it won't be a dynamic. And so like the best equivalent to think about is there was, tradition, so to speak, about pilots. And so when we did Wheelock, we had a conversation and the town had a pilot project. But just last year, there was a developer who basically says, based on 40A section 3, I think it's the same one, maybe it's a different one, but basically said, state law says you can't charge us for solar development. So they didn't want to pay a pilot. And that went, they were litigating it. And then the legislature just changed it and said you can do that. But basically everything's in place. And at some point, some developer is going to challenge it. But I guess all I would suggest is we didn't do anything wrong. We did it. We actually have a very thoughtful, very comprehensive bylaw that Wendell wants to replicate. But it could be loose, it could be solid and robust. It's still something that's out there in contradiction to this vague language from the 70s.
What struck me in the bylaw was, the number of times the recommendation, like they never said no, but the recommendation is that for us to have town council or another set of legal eyes to look at it. At that section, the decommissioning, the antiquities, I believe. And I guess my question is, why wouldn't it be in our best interest to have just another set of legal eyes on this?
Well,
It's,
Donna looked at it.
I know Donna, she helped write. I mean, she reviewed it as it was being written.
Yeah, and it's been through 3 iterations. I mean, I think someone said, oh, Donna said it last time. She said that because the AG approves it means it's consistent with, the state law. It's just someone can question it. But, this is the 3rd set of, we had the original one, I think it was in 2015. And we've had 2 sets of amendments since. And so every time you amend it, the AG has to look at it. So it's gotten 3 passes as the AG. So I whether or not you put it in forth another lawyer, I think the AG is the definitive one that really matters. It's just now, my take is, and then I'll shut up, but my take is that there's 2 things. AMP wants us to change the bylaws to create a separate category for municipal. I mean, that was the thing that they said outright, which is that right now there's no provision in our use table or our bylaws for municipal solar. And so he was suggesting that we create that, which means rewriting the bylaws. And adding something else, which one, we could never do by town meeting anyway. But then it would still have to pass muster at the AG because we'd have to have a process for doing that.
Right.
But that's what he had said. And then the other thing he was saying was that, on the one hand, we were saying we like your bylaws because they're tough, but on the other hand, we want to sort of have this other route because we want to move things forward.
So
Go ahead, Rita.
what I would be interested in knowing is, and maybe it's a land use person, a land use attorney, maybe not, but what's the case law? Have other
Zero.
bylaws, solar bylaws been litigated, and what's been the outcome? And
That's
I
the
think-
issue. It hasn't been yet. There's no case law, as far as I understand.
No, they referenced.
Could I ask a
ahead.
question?
Well, sorry, I saw Becky's hand first and then Becky, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to mention that there's a number of sections that we touched upon. And Michael is saying, well, it's normal that the AG's office would highlight certain sections, but they didn't highlight every section. So the fact that they chose these specific sections to talk about means that these were of more concern, given the first one where given 40A section 3 saying that you can't unreasonably regulate. So yes, Donna's said that our bylaws do fit legally into what we know to date, but the case law is very slim. And basically, that we've said that until these are challenged, we won't know if they stand up to the reasonable measure or not. And if we have a different kind of solar developer who wants to challenge, it appears that we are very open to challenge as on the sections that the AG has highlighted. And I know we had a meeting with Donna the other night where she never used the word onerous in reference to our solar bylaws, but I have heard her use that word before, and that's concerning to me. That's where the concern comes from, that there are some sections, probably most especially in Donna's point of view, and she can speak for herself next time, the section 810-4 required documents, the section that refers to the Native American archaeological sites or native sites. And it's because we use the word or suspected Native American archaeological sites. The word, when you try to hinge approval of a special permit on the word suspected and not something concrete, legal challenges could arise from that. And so there's questions about the bylaws that either Donna could go through and highlight again, or like Rita recommended, potentially having a third party. I guess it was April 1st, mentioned maybe having it reviewed by someone else. But I think Michael's assertion that these are fine, I know they're fine, but there's still questions about how much potential liability we might have if we don't review them further.
Can I ask a question, Becky?
Wait, I just
Sorry.
had a comment. Yeah, I just wanted to throw in there that my recollection had been from some of the discussion in the past, one of the provisions that was built into the bylaw that allowed for flexibility and for some ability to change some of these provisions was that there's a waiver provision that the planning board can waive provisions. Is that correct, Michael?
Yeah, there is.
And Michael, how do the waiver provisions work? What kind of vote has to happen?
So there's the update for June, we changed the process. It was less defined, but basically the developer has to submit in writing during the hearing process what they would like waived. And the idea behind that was that we wanted to give the public the opportunity to comment on the request for waivers. But as long as it's in writing and it's during the open hearing process, they can submit it. And then the planning board can vote. And in terms of the vote, it's the same vote that would be required to approve a special permit. So there's no higher bar. It's the exact same bar.
And
which
can you explain what that bar is?
2/3.
Okay. So this would happen at the very end of the process?
No, it has to happen during the hearing before a decision is made. So they have to articulate what they want waived. So it's not after the fact, because once hearing closes, then there's no public comment that's allowed.
Okay,
So
but the
that-
hearing comes at usually at the end of the special permit process, right?
No,
Where
no,
does it come?
I mean, Linda has lived through it, but, they submit it. And then Linda, you describe it. I don't want. you do
Okay,
better.
so, right, so the application is submitted and per statute, the planning board has a specified period of time during which they have to schedule the public hearing, and notification is done per statute. And once the public hearing, then there's no discussion or deliberation on the application until you're in the public hearing process. And so the waivers, in the past, the waivers have been submitted as part of the application. But like Michael said, they could be submitted in writing during the public hearing process.
Which with
Prior
Wheelock
to-
was a year. It seemed like.
But, okay, so I'm just trying to sort out that the change made it so the waivers that had been submitted during the application process now cannot be submitted until the hearing.
They could be submitted as part of the application, of course.
Well, that's not what Michael said. He said it changed.
No, well, the clarification is that it can't be submitted after the hearing closes, because at that
Correct.
point, there's no discussion allowed. So if you want to have public engagement to ask questions or, chime in about a requested waiver, we made it so that it had to be prior to the closing of the hearing.
Okay, so the developer would have to fully design out the project, every detail of it, submit the application, not knowing if any of the waivers would be granted. So no adjustments. Can be
There was
made?
months and months of back and forth with
Right.
consultants and input and changing of design and all that stuff.
Right.
And that was all during the hearing process.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, the hearing is open and during that
It Can be
whole,
open for the whole
right.
year.
for that whole time, like for example, Wheelock, that was one long public hearing,
Okay.
months long. Yep.
Yeah. The thing
But
I
my
was going
point-
to. Oh, sorry,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
but my point is basically, if you're betting on getting waivers when you design a project, you really will not have the answer. I mean, you're hopefully working cooperatively between the developer and the planning board throughout, so that at the end, potentially, you will have, people, if they're working together in good faith, will come out with a product. But it's basically not really knowing what the rules are until the end.
But no matter what the process is, that's always the case. Like, I mean, I think any developer would say, we'd like to know what you're going to decide before we submit, but the process doesn't work that way. It's the other way around. They have to submit, and then we have to consider, and then we have a conversation. And I get from a business perspective, you want to have all your risks taken away, so you know all the facts on the front end, but that's just not how it goes. The thing I was going to throw out, and I have definitely learned over the years that, towns are inherently risk averse. No one wants to get sued because we don't have money for lawyers, and we'd rather pay the police and fire than spend it on lawyers. So I get that. But if you think about the alternatives, like just say there is concern about the solar bylaws, even though we went through the process and we spent a year developing it, et cetera, et cetera. The alternatives are, the select board makes a motion to town meeting to take them totally away, in which case we would have no solar bylaw and we'd be massively vulnerable, which is why we developed it in the first place. So that's sort of one extreme. The other is, they're recommending changing a bylaw to create a different category, which is doing another round of amendments. And you could do another round of amendments, around a variety of things. One could, the select board could say, we want to change the Native American. I still think it'd be the planning board that would do it, but I guess, the select board could draft amendments and bring it to town meeting. But
Right.
however that works, you're still going to have it written and vetted and have a hearing. So I don't think anything's going to happen for a town meeting. It's not going to happen in the timeline for the developer to know in a very short period of time, whoever does it. And then I think the third thing I would just say is that if something was challenged in court, the way I would understand it, so using your example, Becky, if someone said suspected Native American sites are not okay, I think there's the concept of severability is in place, that part of the bylaw would be rejected, but everything else would stand. And so you have to sort of look at, well, what is AMP looking to change? And is that the things that are legally going to be challenged? They might not align. So it's not an easy solution. I would strongly say don't get rid of the bylaw and have nothing in place. That would be too scary.
Michael, I didn't understand how you came up with all of a sudden there's no bylaw.
I was saying if the select board was concerned about getting sued, that one course of action would be for the select board to say, we're worried about getting sued. We want to propose to the town to remove the bylaw. So that's an option. Another was to amend the bylaw. Those are like two basic pathways. If you choose to amend it, then it's a matter of what do you amend, who amends it, who vets it, and what the time frame is. And that's just an elongated process because there's going to be lots of input and discussion and vetting and hearings, and then it has to get to town meeting again. So that seemed like the two pathways.
What I don't understand is, it was pretty clear recommendation on these sections of the bylaw that we check with town, we have another set of eyes on it again. And I think there's some value in that. I know Donna has seen them and looked at them, but I agree with Rita that if we were to have a land use specialist just review those, I think that would further protect the town. And why not do that? That was the recommendation.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do that, April. I'm saying if you had a land use lawyer look at it and that person came back with recommendations, all I'm saying is the next logical step is you have to amend the bylaw.
That's right.
And so I was sort of jumping to that, which is if you went that route, then it's a matter of saying, well, what do we amend it to? And who does the amending? And then there's the hearing around those amendments, and then there's town meeting approval.
Absolutely. It's a long.
That's my point, is that it's not just someone looking at it and saying jettison this or that. You have to follow it up.
No, I understand that. I understand that it's a long process. And I guess what I'm saying is, well, why wouldn't we, at least look at our, do we need to, do we need amending the amendment?
Well, I guess what I would respond to is the question why. So most lawyers, because it's their job, are also risk averse. So they're going to take the safest course. They're going to say, tact, so limit it to everything so that it's crystal clear that you won't get sued, which given statute is nothing. There's no crystal clear that you won't get sued anyway, but they're going to limit it. And that might not be aligned with what town wanted to do. What the intent of town meeting and supporting it has potential legs. Just because it's, the AG pointed out, doesn't mean it would win or lose in court. And so I think, the downside of asking a lawyer is that they're gonna recommend something that's very narrow,
And then we
which
have,
which may or
that
may
would-
not reflect the values of town. That's all I'm saying.
and then we can deal with that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I was just answering why not. That
Okay,
was.
all right, okay. Why not?
Yeah, I see your hand.
Oh, I was wondering also if possibly the select board would entertain having a before hiring potentially outside counsel, having a meeting with our planning board
Yes.
and having a thorough discussion, section by section about the concerns that have been raised and hear the planning board's thinking on everything they did. And that might be the best starting point or end point. You won't know which it is until you do it.
Well, I would also want Donna, our town council, to be there as well.
Yeah.
I think that makes perfect sense. You know,
Is Rita here?
yeah.
Yeah, yes, she's
She's
right
at the
there.
bottom of my screen.
All right. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea to meet with the planning board and to have Donna there.
Looking into it's not, looking into it, making sure it's meets, like Michael said, our town, thoughts and stuff about solar, but also that it's not opening ourselves up to something too,
Mhm.
I think that's a good idea. And meeting with the planning board. Maybe we think differently after we have that meeting.
And I think meeting with the planning board, I think would be, I mean, if we had a joint meeting, I think that would be great. The only thing I would just want to clarify is what you guys are discussing doesn't address what AMP was asking for, which I'm fine with, but they were saying add a new section and a new category to the bylaws for municipal ownership or operation of solar. So reviewing what we got is fine. It's prudent. We'll end up doing it. But just to clarify, we're not embarking at this point, it sounds like, on looking into how to give them what they're asking for, which is a whole new amendment to the bylaw.
No,
Which,
Well, it might be worth, if we're meeting with the planning board, to get the planning board's response and concerns about that issue as well.
Mhm.
I mean, you could listen to that.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't close the door to it. I wouldn't close the door to hearing their points of view on that issue if the select board would like to hear from them on that issue.
Mhm.
That's it. I mean, we can ask the question and then, definitely can inform conversations with, or, going forward about that particular issue, I suppose.
And I think Donna's guidance in that conversation, I think, would be very helpful.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like my intent is to rip up all of this hard, good work. That's not the intent, but more to just,
Maybe make that shaky brick a little bit tighter.
yeah, or see, make sure we don't kick it out somehow. But I think reviewing this with the planning board and Donna would makes a lot of sense. I like that, Becky.
Okay, I'll talk to
All
Dee.
right,
to set up
Arrow.
a meeting.
Not the 16th. I think we have a pretty packed.
Okay.
Yeah. Rita, while you were gone, we decided to add a small part of the discussion at the end around the regional agreement.
Okay.
Well, Melissa, we
Oh, go
had to change that to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. We did.
So we're meeting with the FinCom,
FinCom.
those people.
So the Melissa's talking about the regional assessment formula. We had
Yeah,
a
I
discussion.
saw
about that.
I saw your email just saying that we're not gonna have any more 4-town meetings.
Right, and that being the case, I think it's important for the select board to discuss if they want to write a letter or make a statement prior to the regional school committee taking a vote.
So the regional school committee is just gonna go ahead and vote on the formula?
Yeah.
We believe.
No more discussion.
Well, part of no for town meeting was school committee will vote in 2 weeks. So they
I'm
have
sorry, I
a,
got the date wrong, Becky. The 9th.
right, the 9th.
yeah.
Because it's the 16th that the regional school committee is very likely to vote on the regional assessment method. So it would be good for all 3 school committee, select board and finance committee to have a discussion about it and see if they want to send a message or to the regional school committee so they can have that information. So the only way to do that at this point in time is to have the select board join the finance committee conversation regarding the issue next Tuesday on the 9th. And I'll post that as a select board meeting for this time slot that they are discussing the issue and invite the school committee too.
Yeah, I didn't mean the 16th, I meant the 9th.
That's right. Great.
And Melissa, can I ask one point just before we totally go into whatever your next topic is?
Oh, I think that was the last one, but go ahead.
Okay. It took me a while to connect the dots on this thought, but I just want to throw it out. So connecting the MOU conversation from earlier tonight and the bylaws,
Mhm.
you know, if there was going to be discussion between the planning board and the select board about how people felt about creating a different category for municipal ownership of solar, it seems like you would want to actually have those be informing. Like I've thought about, you know, what would I want if we had municipal solar? What would that look like as a category? And it may or may not be informed by the MOU, but it seems like it could. And so, because I mean, what they were pitching was municipal operation of solar, and whether that qualifies to be a bylaw change in a whole new category, you know, you want to have them sort of aligned somehow, which just is worth pointing out.
Good thought. Yeah. Yes, Becky.
I was struggling. I was struggling to follow Michael, so I'm just sitting here wondering what you said. So are you? Because I thought you were going a different direction. So are you saying that you're kind of thinking about the MOU and going backwards to redefining what the municipal responsibilities might be in a real municipal solar situation?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use the word responsibilities, but you know, so what Evan said is he would like the town to create a new category of municipally owned solar. So that would have to be in a bylaw. And so it struck me that if we were going to go down that route, obviously we would want to have a conversation conceptually about what we want in our bylaw. What does municipally owned solar look like? And he's pitching that because it's connected to the operations contract. And even if they end up being different, it seems like that's the conversation, which is we're signing up for a certain thing, and it may or may not be the same thing, but we should have a conversation, because ideally you'd want it to be aligned, that you'd say, here's what municipally owned category is in the bylaw, and we're signing this contract because we want to do something like that. So I don't have the answers, but it seems like they are connected conceptually. They might deviate at the end practically, but at least at the beginning, we should be asking that question. Like, if this is what we're saying we want it to look like in the bylaw, why wouldn't we be signing a contract that reflects that?
Michael, doesn't the zoning have a provision for municipally owned solar? Wasn't that one of the by right?
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not defined.
Yeah, but that's like real, like it's if the town, you know, if we got millions of dollars and we developed our own solar,
Right.
then it's by right. But it's by right for if the town wants to do pretty much anything, the town has.
So there
by
is
right.
something in the zoning.
But it's not a category within the solar bylaw.
No, it's not.
It's only in the zoning, it's in
Right.
the big zoning, not the solar.
Right.
Well, we have a municipal light plant.
We can't
Yeah,
use it.
I know.
Like if we wanted to build the library, that's going to be municipally owned. And so that's by right. There's all these other permits and stuff you have to get, but that's by right. But we don't have what the characteristics of a municipal solar category would be. We have small and we have large. They're asking for a third version of that.
Mm.
And it doesn't exist, which is what he articulated he wanted. And so it just seems like if you were going to do that, we signed an MOU about something, maybe we can't get it, but we should at least know what we want it to look like.
Don?
I think, yeah.
Yep, Don.
Just a quick, I wanted to sort of chime in about this, this idea. A lot of the objections that I've heard in town about solar farms in general has been about the taking of forest land. Well, Michael brings up an interesting possibility. Seeing as how this hasn't been done anywhere else in the state where someone has joined a town to a private corporation like this memorandum of understanding provides us an opportunity to set up an ask for, say, Coles put aside 1% of its land as pro-forestation, no more logging on it. That's a tiny fragment of what Coles owns in forest land. There's more to it. The butterfly meadow idea for the solar farm. Well, I mean, it really takes a full-time manager on site to create that type of meadow, that type of habitat. We could put that in wording in a municipal section for the bylaw, for the solar bylaw. So the MOU is actually an opportunity here for us to get something that assuages the division in town. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure. I'm thinking,
And Don, I mean, what I
very
was thinking
creative.
about,
I'm kind of figuring
yeah.
out.
I mean, I think the other motivation, most people are talking about money. And so, the thing that can't be done apparently through the SMART program, but is worth looking about in the bylaws for me is, Becky and I talked about this years ago. Like if we had enough money, we would like to have our own municipal solar. It's just that, no one can afford it. But it begs the question that, maybe all the energy doesn't have to go tie into the grid. If we're talking about sustainability and resilience, you could have a bylaw that says in actual fact, some of the power generated can be directed on emergency status into town. I mean, then you're talking about real partnership, and so that's what I'm thinking about. Like if we think about what conceptually would make it feel like it was a municipally owned solar project in the bylaw, then, because just look at this week when we lost power, that's only going to happen more and more. If we actually we can't afford to build our own supply of energy, but if we could say, if you do this and you're going to give us a certain offshoot, then it's sort of municipally owned. But that's the bylaw discussion. And then out of that, it seems like that's when it informs the MOU of what, to your point, what the ask is. Because my point earlier tonight is they're getting a lot. As soon as they get to say that they're a public entity, they're getting a lot. And so we need to know what we want to get out of it besides the crumbs that they're offering. We have to come to the table with understanding of what we want to get out of it. Marina's respectfully raising her hand.
Marina.
Hi. I have so many blind spots, but just lacking information. But I just was wanting to piggyback on what Don said, because I was thinking too about the objections that are out there, which I share, which are to chopping down forests to put up solar. And I just wanted to say that earlier, Michael said, some options, one is to just, you know, and it was sort of like out of the box. People were surprised by it, but to just get rid of all the bylaws or to amend the bylaws. And it just occurred to me at that time that another option is to question that a document that was put up there under the Attorney General thing or whatever, where she approves the bylaws. It said no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. Well, at this point, let's see, March 4th, 2021, given the information that I have difficulty just swallowing whole cloth without intense investigation, which I feel others are interested in as well. This idea that other people besides us would determine what public health is. Because we've been, you know, through what we've been through in the last year, and it's just hard to buy. I'm not buying it. So chopping down trees to me doesn't seem like public health. And I do like, you know, the idea of getting something in exchange, or at least getting more of our own sovereignty in exchange, you know, electricity that actually is coming to the town potentially. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Marina. Does anyone else have any comments? Otherwise, I think we're done with our agenda for this evening. Sephora.
Yeah, I kind of along the lines of what Marina was saying is I have questions about the science that I've seen related to the project, the trade-off between forests and solar energy. Does anyone know where those figures are coming from? There was no citations on what I saw. There was no article citations or anything.
Are you referring to that PowerPoint that AMP presented?
That, and also I saw a letter from Cinda Jones in the e-Cricket where she laid out her rationale for solar being green, even if you're chopping down trees. And she thought that it was, you know, it came out on the plus for solar. And I was just listening to the recording of, I guess it was the last select board meeting where there was some kind of presentation of that same information, that chopping down trees is less good for the environment than solar is, or keeping the trees is less good than putting in solar installations where the forest was.
I think some of that comes from the idea that, you know, you save the X amount of fossil fuel is not burned. So the carbon sequestration that happens in the forest is offset by,
yeah,
that's the idea. That's where that comes from.
Well, I know, but I would really like to see what they're basing that on, because there's been recent research looking not just at the trees. You know, yeah, there's X number of, you know, carbon atoms in a tree. So when you cut it down and whatever it does, you know, that carbon goes into the atmosphere. But there's also all this carbon in a living forest, in the soil, in all the microorganisms in the soil. It's like 6 feet down at least of living carbon that's just moving all the time in the soil. And you know, are they taking that into account, or are they just looking at tree trunks? So I'd like to know what they're basing that science on.
Melissa, I can ask them.
I had
Okay,
my
please,
hand up.
yeah. I see Henry's hand.
Yeah, I can submit some of the latest research on this actually. Since about 2015, the U.S. Forest Service and the journal Nature, which is probably the most prominent journal, science journal in the world, scientists have verified that trees are just a portion of the carbon sequestration that's going on. Most of the carbon sequestration is actually in the soil beneath the trees. I said most, it could be up to 2 to 3 times the amount of carbon sequestration. Anytime you disturb the soil is when you start releasing all of that carbon. So the science is pointing to that kind of assessment. The idea that somehow trees alone are a substitute for the gains from offsetting carbon emissions through other means is largely being challenged by the science. I will supply that for the committee. I'm actually working on something on that in my own research.
It's William Mumaw's research, Henry.
No, it's not just Muma, it's across the board, looking at the U.S. Forest Service. No, it's no rogue conservation biologist.
Michael. You're muted.
There we go. You guys can hear. So I don't know the science like these guys do. I know that, like 5 years ago, it was debatable. I think it's less debatable now, to Henry's point. But the thing I just wanted to connect the dots on, and this is the thing that I know about, which is policy. So if you look at the SMART program, there's 4 categories for developing industrial solar that SMART has. There's category 1A and B, there's category 2, and there's category 3. Category 3, you're not allowed to get SMART credits. It's basically, you're putting it in places that they don't want you to do it. And category 1A and B are the best ones. And then category 2 is okay, but not preferable. And so where this connects all the dots is that if you get public entity status, you get to be category 1 automatically. So, when we've talked about what's the advantages of signing an MOU, if they sign an MOU, they get to be a public entity. If they get to be a public entity, they get to be category 1, which means they get to priority in terms of where they build and how it gets processed. And it's not necessarily the case. The state said in those 2014 documents I referenced that they discouraged building on active agricultural and forested land. I mean, it's in black and white in 2014. And so that's there. The first round, the SREC program didn't really reflect that. SMART's doing a better job of it. And so that's where this comes into play, that, it's not, the MOUs might end up giving us money, but really it gives them a ticket to develop. And it gets to, I think, the point about forested land and where they get to build or not build.
Okay, I had another question. Maybe there's some place that this has already been covered that I haven't seen, but this upgrading of the substation and the lines, what's involved in that? What's the environmental impact of that? What's the impact on neighbors? What's the electromagnetic field change for, people nearby? Is there any information about that already?
The only information I think that, I think that they had given us, but also I have, I know from looking at other things, is that substations across the country are very unmanaged and very dilapidated in some ways. And so to be able to carry the load, they have to upgrade the lines and the substation. So if they're going to add extra energy into the system, they have to
Right. No, I understand that part, but it's.
That's
We
not
don't
the
have any
mechanics
details.
behind it,
I
but
mean,
there's no-
that's getting to a level of detail that we're really far away from. They don't even have applications into the planning board yet. so,
Okay.
um,
Well, it sounds like an upgrade might actually be an improvement.
It could be.
Okay, I had one other question. In terms of the actual acreage of the solar array, that's going to displace a lot of birds and animals. They talk about mitigation, but how is that actually mitigated? Because as my understanding is that they're considering leaving some of the forest intact as mitigation for the forest that's cut. But the forest that's already intact is already populated with birds and animals. It's not like they can take in refugees, it's like, what happens with that? And then there's going to be a fence around the whole thing, right? So no animals and birds can go there because there's a fence. Well, I guess the birds can fly over the fence.
So
I appreciate your questions, but these are, we
This is a
don't have
common
answers. This is,
Okay.
we're the select board. We're not
Well,
the developers, so.
That's an answer right there, is that you don't have that information. So I guess my question is, is anyone gonna consider that as an important aspect of the project?
I think
I guess
there'll be a lot of consideration.
Yeah, as a representative of the planning board, I mean, that's where it'll happen. So, and Rita's point, nothing's been submitted yet. So
Right.
there's no there. But once that happens, it'll start a process, and then there'll be public hearing where all these, the information will be requested and questions can be asked. And so
Okay.
that'll, assuming that they proceed and actually submit something, that it'll start then. Hi, Grace.
Grace, did you have a question? Or no?
Not a question. I just want to assure the public that so when people submit a application to the planning board, it is available for public review in the town clerk's office for 20 days after it's filed. And for those 20 days, nothing else can happen about it. Because of COVID, you guys can't come into my office right now, but I just want to let everybody know that as soon as any permits are filed on this, I will immediately be putting them on the town website so that you guys can all see them. And I just want everyone to know that I know that this information is really important and really relevant to a lot of people, and a lot of people are really interested. So I will be actively making sure that it is as accessible as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
And I did have one more thing I wanted to say. It's just kind of looking into the future. Right now, there's very little monetary incentive to keep forests intact. It's like all the tax laws and coals, right? Coals this is a trade-off for them. It's like, to keep all their forest and afford to keep all their forest, they're gonna want to do these solar projects because they need to make money because they're a business. But in the future, that may change. There might become a carbon economy of some kind that would actually make Shutesbury rich because we had intact forests. There might be like big corporations paying Shutesbury because we have intact forests, and they want to, whatever they do, there's all these things that don't really exist particularly yet, but a lot of people are talking about them. So it's just something to think about. It's like right now, we don't have a lot of monetary incentive to want to keep our forests. It's to our taxpayer benefit to, have projects like this that cut them down because we got money. But that might change. Food for thought.
Melissa?
Rita, go ahead.
Can we just wrap up soon?
Yep.
Since some of us have been here since 5:30 and not eaten dinner yet.
You read my mind.
This is a great discussion, but it's kind of off topic or off the agenda. So I just want to make sure I'm clear about when the meeting on the 9th and then we're meeting on the 16th. Is that
Becky's
correct?
gonna let us know on the 9th what time we're in the schedule for the finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that will be posted meeting with the FinCom.
The FinCom.
Great.
And
It is time for dinner.
And I'll
You're
make
right.
a motion to adjourn.
And I'm seconding that.
okay. All in favor?
Errol, I.
Stein, I.
Big piece on the eye.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you
Good
all.
night,
for
everyone.
coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good
you.
night. Linda,
Yes.
if you can't make the 9th, Finance Committee has a really good minute taker now, AJ. So if that's a day you have plans for, keep your plans, okay?
Hey, I'm free right now, so,
Okay.
okay.
And I couldn't take the minutes during the meeting. I jotted down notes, but I couldn't type. And I didn't do a good job because I got involved in the discussion. So like always, so I'm going to
So-
try to do that right now. And
So just, or you could just,
I got the spelling right for the candidate who was hired.
right, so
Great.
that'll
Still
be,
recording.